we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Carol and Stephanie. We have a few other folks that are registered, so we're going to give them just a couple minutes to jump on and get situated and everything like that. I wish I had some fun music to play. Unfortunately, I don't. But we'll get started in just a couple of minutes. So everybody sit tight and welcome to today's webinar.
Yes. I see somebody else just popped in, RC from the town of Wheatland.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome and happy Wednesday.
Yes, halfway through the week.
Yes. Midweek or hump day? What is your local language for that? For like Wednesday, hump day?
I think
midweek madness.
I don't use hump day, but I think a lot of people do.
Okay.
But so it's around me, but I would be interested what others. That would make an excellent poll question.
Yes, let's put it on the poll. Good idea.
It's not coffee, tea, or water. It's hump day or midweek or.
Yes. What do you call your Wednesday?
Oh goodness. Good morning, Susan. I see Susan has jumped on. Just a quick reminder for everybody. We're just going to wait just a minute or two. We have another 10 or so people registered, so I just want to give them a minute or two just to log in and get situated, and then we'll get started. So sit tight. Nella is going to put a cool poll in the poll, so make sure you go ahead and vote. I might do it too. But we'll get started in just a minute or two. Ooh, there it is.
Hey, Susan. Welcome. There's a little poll in the third button from the right at the right-hand corner of your screen. So if you guys want to vote, we are talking about what do you call Wednesday in your neighborhood or in your municipality. Some people call it midweek madness, hump day. What do you call it in your neighborhood or in your municipality?
What do you guys call it? Is it hump day?
It's hump day, yes. But we also have Who's Are Thursdays, which means it's the day before Friday, and then you have a reason to kind of celebrate.
Yes.
And so we have hump days and then Who's Are Thursdays. So yeah.
I have two that I use for Thursday. I use Friday Eve.
Yes.
Or Baby Friday.
Baby Friday. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna borrow that.
I've heard that and I use both of them, but I think I like Baby Friday a little bit better.
Yes. It does make me think of Baby Shark though. Baby Shark, Baby Shark, so that's.
Oh yes.
But I really like those. Nice.
All right. It looks like we've still got some folks coming in. I'm just gonna do some housekeeping kind of announcements before we get started, and then we'll get going. First of all, I'll formally introduce myself once we get started. But my name is Chris Estrella. I'm coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada, which you'll hear in just a second. I'm a teeny bit under the weather for a couple of reasons. I didn't sleep super great last night, but also we have some wildfires to the south of us and to the north of us in Reno. So some of that smoke, like if you were to look outside my window, like right now, like I just did, it looks like it's very smoky. Like you just walk outside and you taste campfire, wildfire. So it's in my lungs a little bit. I'm fine. We're fine. But we're not in the city. We're at the far south end of Las Vegas, and so we have a little bit more smoke up here. So I'm okay. I have my good friend water bottle in case I get a little dry here, and it is dry here regardless all the time. But just so you're aware, there's a little sniffle. There's a little bit of campfire in my throat. Everything's good. It's just I might need a little extra water. We've got a relatively short presentation that we'll go over about community involvement strategies, way to increase engagement. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat box or the question box whenever you like. What I'll probably end up doing, though, is just saving them all for the end, just because I won't. This isn't a super long presentation, so we definitely have some time for questions at the end. So put them in at any time, but I think we'll address them all at the end. But I see we have Darcy, Carol, Stephanie, and Susan. It is great to have all of you here. It looks like and I just want to make sure. It looks like we have the state of Wyoming. We have Utah. I think Chevy Chase, is that in Massachusetts, if I'm right? And then Carol, I don't know where Riley Township is. Could you tell us in the chat box where Riley Township is? I'm a bit of a geography nerd as well, so I love to see where what states everybody is from. Chevy Chase, Maryland. That's right. Chevy Chase, Maryland, not Massachusetts. Thank you, Susan. And Darcy, yes, it's fire season out here in the West. So I'm glad that you understand, but that's kind of what we deal with. And I'll give you a little preview. Never really had to deal with wildfires when I lived in Wisconsin. So it's kind of a new thing for me living out here. And what you can't see off screen is I actually have a second bottle of water. So I'm extra prepared. All right. I'm just waiting for the chat here just to. Yes, tornadoes, exactly. Tornadoes and snowstorms in Wisconsin for wildfires in Nevada. I totally get that. That's a great point, Darcy. So what I'm going to do, I'm assuming everybody can see my screen. If you can, just drop a Y or a yes in the chat and let me know. But we're going to talk about community involvement strategies, community engagement strategies for clerks in their municipalities. Perfect. Everybody can see it. That's great. I've actually got a second screen off to my left. I'm not going to look at it, but this is where this presentation lives. So I might have to glance at it a little bit. But first, I want to introduce Betty. Betty is, she's been in her job for a while. And I don't mean this in a good or a bad way. She just has been. She's been in her job for a while. She really loves paper. She loves flyers stuck to the bulletin board. She loves the feeling of paper. She loves the stacks of paper. She's definitely in her job for the long haul until retirement. She loves building relationships with people in kind of the more older traditional ways, which is not bad. And again, kind of because she's been in her job for so long, she wants to support the community. She wants to kind of increase engagement, but she's not really sure how because she hasn't really been exposed to anything like that would kind of change how she does things. And so what Betty did is Betty hired Bella to work with her. Clearly, just so you guys are aware, these images are AI generated. They're fairly accurate, though. Just, maybe you are a Betty, maybe you are a Bella, or you know someone. But Bella sleeps with her phone. She has her social calendar of everything that's going on, all the events, all the people, all of her friends. She's very well connected in the true electronic sense. She loves to kind of be an influencer almost and bring in younger folks to feel like they're part of the community. And she really is, not that Betty isn't bubbly, because Betty is, but she really is just kind of very focused on people and kind of building those relationships in a electronic but also kind of authentic kind of way as well. Maybe you are one of these. Maybe you're a combination or of both of these. Maybe you're kind of something in the middle. So just a couple. Just keep these in mind as we go along and we talk about things. This is not an AI generated picture. That's actually me. As I mentioned before, my name is Chris Estrella. I am the government content insider for TownWeb and for HeyGov. I was a municipal clerk treasurer for almost 17 years. I need a quick shot of water. In Wisconsin, I worked for city, villages, and towns, and so I have experience across every type of municipality in Wisconsin. I was a deputy administrator for 10 years. Currently, I am also an adjunct professor of public administration at UW Oshkosh, which is my alma mater in Wisconsin, and also at Rochester University in Michigan. I'm also a past president of the Wisconsin Municipal Clerks Association. It was from August of 2016 to 2017. I love the Packers, which we had a rough weekend. I love the Yankees, which we're hoping to make the playoffs. And I love In-N-Out Burger because it is the greatest cheeseburger on the planet. And as I mentioned, I live in Las Vegas. I love living here. And I was mentioning this to Nellet just before we had made the event live. I like to brag about how awesome the weather is here. And with all the smoke and the wildfires, there is, even paradise doesn't have perfect weather every day. It does happen a few times a year. So I love living here. If you've ever been here, I could talk for hours about it. I certainly won't. But if you've ever been here, you know how great of a place this is. And if you've ever come, if you've never been, it might blow your mind. So, but I won't talk about Vegas anymore because I really could talk about it for hours. But let's talk about teamwork. I have a clip here. It's a short clip, and I skipped it. I have a clip here from a certain movie, and I'm going to play it, and I hope the sound comes through. I just want you guys to watch it. If you've never seen that movie, it's Ocean's 11. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I promised you I wouldn't talk about Las Vegas. And then, of course, on the very next slide, there's Las Vegas. It really exemplifies, and it's a great movie. It is. It's a remake of the original that starred Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., all the Rat Pack. The original was great too, but this movie really exemplifies, even though they're robbing from one of the casinos here, really exemplifies how a true team comes together to accomplish a goal. And you've got different age groups, you've got different ethnicities, you've got different talents and expertise, and it's really cool just to think about how this team came together for their common goal. And again, a little bit tongue in cheek, they're robbing a casino, but they still accomplished what they needed to at the very end. Again, if you've never been to Vegas, one of my favorite things to do is to do what they are doing here and just go stand in front of the fountains of Bellagio and just enjoy it. It's absolutely gorgeous. The music is fantastic too. So if you've never been, I'd strongly suggest you do that. And if you have, of course, we can't wait for you to come back. But if you think about all the participants here, Brad Pitt was kind of the overall brains with George Clooney, and then Basher was the one who would blow stuff up, and there was Livingston Dell, and he was the technology guy, and there was Bernie Mac, and he was the guy on the inside. Like they all really came together super, super well to accomplish their goal in the end. And so we're going to talk a little bit about kind of those different age ranges and groups and all that kind of stuff that comes with that, and then what we can do to kind of accomplish things in the end. So thank you for bearing with me for that. I know it was a couple of minutes, but it's plus you hear Claire de Lune and you have nothing to complain about. So what are we talking about? So we're talking about the different types of people, the different groups that we serve. Our neighbors, maybe we have tourists that come in, maybe we work with the next town over, kids, my mother-in-law, and I don't mean her specifically, but I mean her age group. My mother-in-law is 75, maybe she's 76. She's not super, super great with technology. Conversely, we have the different generations, the Gen Zs, the Gen Xs, the Gen Ys, the millennials. There's such an array of people that we all serve that we have to kind of tailor our messages and tailor our services to serve everybody. So how do we do that? And our coworkers, I think this might be even the most underrated is our coworkers. It's very similar to these groups of people that you'll see here, especially across generations. And again, I talked about it a little bit with Betty and with Bella, but our coworkers are a microcosm of all of these folks here. Some of them live in the municipality they work in. Some of them don't. Some of them might live the next town over. Some might live far away. Some might be younger. Some might be older. It's really just it's such a diverse cross section of people that we work with, that we have to serve. It can be kind of daunting. So I'm hoping to share some things that might help you make your guys' job a little bit easier. I forgot the graphic was there, so forgive me for that. But next, like, why is engagement important? I think the term engagement has definitely shifted over the years, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But I think one of the most important things is that you, whether or not you live in your municipality, you are part of the community. People want to know you. They want to know. I think, again, I teach on this stuff, and I went to graduate school for this stuff as well. But I think generally speaking, people want to know who is working in their local governments. They want to be able to trust them. They want to be able to have a familiar face when they walk into their city hall or their town hall or their village hall. They want to know that they have, kind of some consistency there. There's not a lot of turnover. They want to know who you are. They want to know things about you. They might just come in just to chat with you, and just pay a bill and hang around for 15 or 20 minutes. I've had that happen hundreds of times over my career. But people want to be able to know you. They want to be able to trust you. A municipality really has kind of changed into more of a living and breathing type of thing. I don't want to say organism, but I think that kind of fits. It's kind of like, and what I'll use is the U.S. Constitution. The Constitution is a living document. It's always changing. It's always, there's amendments that are made to it. It's never the same document that it was before. And so I think municipalities are kind of going that way as well, in that things are changing, maybe not quickly, because we all know that government moves, typically kind of slow and methodical, which is totally fine. But things are always changing. Things are always evolving. And what can you guys do to keep up with that? And I think engagement is a big piece of that. Kind of ties into my third point. You can make engagement whatever you want to. 15 years ago, 5 years ago, AI didn't exist. 15 years ago, websites were definitely not as popular as they are now. Chatbots were not as prevalent as they are now. Engagement has changed from more of a personal interaction. I'm going to stop in, or I'm going to send a phone. I'm going to give you a phone call, or I'm going to attend a meeting, to now it's more electronic. I'm going to send you an email. I'm going to shoot you a text message. I'm going to interact with your chatbot. I'm going to, complete forms online as opposed to mailing them, things like that. So you can really tailor how you engage with people to whatever works for your municipality and the people that you serve that I mentioned on the previous slide. Shot of water. And that's really great because we're in this age now where it's like you don't have to adapt to something. Like there isn't like an overreaching, this is how you will communicate. People communicate in so many different ways. And so you can really figure out for your municipality what works best for you, what works best for your team, what works best for the people that you serve, and really just kind of install that and just make it work. So I'm going to move on. A few more reasons why, there we go, the click didn't work. My mouse went to sleep. So why else is engagement important? I mentioned this first one already, creating trust in government. I really believe this. People really want to know, they really want to be able to trust the people that are working in their local government, maybe even their county government offices. I have always found, and I've studied this in school a little bit, but the higher the level of government, the less amount of trust that there is. And so those local government officials, you guys, your town board, city council, and village trustees, people want to get to know them and trust them. Engagement is also important because this will promote education. And one example I always fall back on is what a road right-of-way is. People don't generally know what a road right-of-way is until a plow truck rips up their grass that's by the road, or a garbage truck rips up all the dirt that's bordering where the road ends and where their property line, where they think their property line starts. I have had, and I'm sure you all have too, have had so many discussions in my career about what a road right-of-way is. And people want to know. That's the other thing. I think people want to know and they want to understand. Whether or not they agree with it, they at least want to understand what the concept is. And so I would really go out of my way to explain to people what a road right-of-way works, how it works, even though, they would, of course, they would always complain, well, I still have to mow it, and I still have to pay taxes on it. Well, yes, you do. That's the way that it is. It's unfortunate, but it's true. I had to do it as well. It's just one of those things where if you take a little extra time and explain things in a easy to understand way, using plain language and making sure that you educate them, in the long run, it will pay off. And so maybe down the road, when they have a conversation with their neighbor who's not too happy about the plow truck ripping up their grass, when they interact about it, they can say, well, hey, I talked to so-and-so at City Hall, and they explained to me how road right-of-ways work. And it just kind of, fans out from there. It's really cool how you can reach that. So I generally believe people want to know, they want to be educated. Engagement is really important, especially in an electronic way now, because this will encourage input in decision-making. We've seen, quick shot of water again. We've seen over, the COVID era and the post-COVID era, how we all had to adapt. Board meetings were conducted via Zoom, or at least had a live Zoom recording or a live stream. An example I always like to share, when my wife and I lived in Wisconsin, we didn't regularly go to church. We were Christmas and Easter folks. We used to call ourselves Creasters. But because we lived 45 minutes away, poor excuse, but that was our excuse. During the pandemic, our church live streamed service. And so we would be in the kitchen making breakfast, and, off to the left would be Pastor Gary or Pastor Harold giving their sermon, and we would be at church. And that was how that was how we all had to adapt. And so now, because we adapted that way during the pandemic, those are now the expectations that people are having with how local governments conduct themselves and their businesses. So by putting more things in an electronic way, say that 3 times fast, in an electronic way, it encourages more input in decision-making and more participation. And it kind of ties into my fourth point. It gives the people what they want. If we look at companies, and I'll pick on Target, but Target, Walmart, grocery stores, they now all have the service where you can pull in, let them know on your phone that you're there, and somebody will walk your groceries out or your order out and put it in your trunk for you. That didn't exist before COVID. And so people experiencing what they're experiencing in private industry now are expecting local governments, all governments, to kind of follow that example. And one final thing in terms of engagement and why it's important, if you put things out there electronically that people can actually complete, this will allow them to get work done outside of office hours, like outside of 8 to 4, 9 to 5, and it will take more work off of your plate, which is one of my goals. I'm not a clerk anymore, but I'm kind of a forever clerk. I'm always going to be a clerk. Once a clerk, always a clerk. But one of my goals is to make sure that we empower clerks to get people to conduct business outside of business hours, get stuff off of their plate, get things done so that so there's not a huge stack of paper when you come into the office the next morning. I also feel I don't know if this is a word that I made up or if somebody else did, but I'll just say it. The Amazonification of society is real. People want things right now. I mean, here's just I'm going to ask a quick question for the chat. How many of you are Amazon Prime subscribers? And I'm going to answer it too. So we see Darcy is, I am, and by way of me, or I guess my wife is, and I am by way of her. Yep. Is anybody not an Amazon Prime subscriber? Look at this. Like this is crazy. It's not really that crazy, but it's really interesting to see. Like, so we all of us Amazon Prime subscribers, we all expect our packages to arrive in a day or two. And if it goes beyond that, well, then what are we paying for? And so our society has kind of subscribed to that model as well. I want it now. I want to be able to do it myself. I don't need help. So how can we empower our citizens, our visitors, our tourists, our coworkers to do that sort of thing? It's really important to kind of not to overuse the word subscribe, to subscribe to that kind of train of thought. There we go. So how can we accomplish that? Some kind of over, 10,000 foot view examples: digital forms, digital permits, digital licenses. And I'm not advocating to doing it all at once. I'll talk about that in just a second. But even just starting, if you're not certain how many you would use, start with one, start with two. If you're concerned about making a switch of everything all at once, you don't have to. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Partnering with neighboring municipalities. My last clerk job in Wisconsin, I was the clerk treasurer for the town of Oakland. We were literally sharing a border with the village of Cambridge in Jefferson County and in Dane County. And we shared a cable TV station. It was a small one. Cambridge's population, I think, is right around 2,000, and ours was 3,100. So we had a line item in each of our budgets to fund that. We also had our franchise fees from the cable, but we shared that. If maybe you're not large enough to have your own cable TV station, or you're not large enough to have your own live stream, or you're not large enough to have your own digital forms or permits or licenses, can you partner with somebody else? Can you partner with a neighboring municipality? Can you partner with another department to spread that cost among other departments? It's okay. Like we obviously, I'm here for a reason. We want you to, kind of subscribe to our products and services. But overall, the goal is to get you to work with others, and we want it to be us. But if it's not, there's so many people out there that you can choose from. So have those conversations and find something that works for you. Updated municipal websites are also important. Can you incorporate aspects of other websites into it? Do you link to other websites? Do you have tourism on there? Do you have a separate tourism website? Do you have tourism? Do you need one? It's things like that. How can we work together? How can we look at things not only just to save money and save time, but really make things easier for the people that we serve? Because again, we have all those different generations that we're serving, and they all communicate in different ways. And so this ties into my last point. Getting rid of old processes is a good thing. It is, but in a timely fashion. Everybody's different. I've met with people who are like, I want to get rid of everything on paper immediately. I want to start as soon as possible and just be done with it. And conversely, I've met with people who are like, I really want to go very slow. We have a lot of older folks that live in our community that wouldn't use this, but I see the younger folks moving in, the younger families moving in from the larger cities. This is what they expect. We need to adapt and service them. but we need to scale it up slowly. And I think I'm having my master's in public administration. One of the overall themes that I kind of gleaned from that is there isn't necessarily a one size fits all solution, and that's where this last point comes in. Getting rid of old processes is a good thing, or at least updating them. But it doesn't mean that you have to go all in on one solution or all in on another solution. Maybe it's a multifaceted solution. Maybe you run paper processes for a little while as you're switching to electronic and then cut it off. Maybe you rip off the Band-Aid and go one way or the other. Maybe it's a hybrid approach. It's really up to you guys to determine what the best route for your municipality will be. And so it's we can put out there what we can put out there, but ultimately you guys have to make the choice in what works best for you. So what does some specific examples of what does engagement look like? Working with local businesses. Do you have a business directory on your municipal website? You certainly don't have to, and it's not like you're endorsing these businesses. I would certainly get phone calls all the time about, do I know a company that, a landscaping company, or do I know a company that fixes garage doors in the areas? I would never provide an answer because I didn't want to seem like we were endorsing anybody. That's always kind of a fine line. You don't want to show favoritism to anybody one way or the other. But having a simple directory of all the businesses in your municipality, if you're a smaller one, that can make a big difference. Sharing information about events in your town calendar. Do you have a neighborhood association in your community? Do you have a chamber of commerce? Your school district, do they have events that you can share on your calendar so they're not just in one spot, but they're in many spots? Can you work together with them? Can you give them access to calendars? Just things to think about to get more information out there to as many different sources as possible. Social media is a big one. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It can be really good and it can be not so good. But social media really is where we kind of shift the focus to the younger generations, where maybe they'll share and they'll like and they'll follow organizations and businesses. I do that for some local places here, definitely some pizza places here in Vegas, and of course In-N-Out Burger. But it's social media is a great way to get information out, and there can be some drawbacks from that, but it really is a great way to get information out, and that's one of the main ways that the younger generations communicate. If my colleague Megan were here with me, she would be all about it. Like she totally would. And I'm into it too, but she's 27 and I'm 44. So there's just that generational gap right there, just a little bit different. But then at the same time, do you still put out a flyer on your town hall window for my mother-in-law who doesn't, she's got a smartphone, but she's not great with it. And I think she would be the first to admit that. But do you still have ways to communicate with folks who might still get their news from a weekly or a daily newspaper? I know that seems pretty rare, but it does happen. And so we can't leave those folks behind, at least forever. And it's something that we have to definitely keep in mind. Like, how are we getting information out to everybody? We're coming in on the home stretch here. So of some practical examples of kind of ways to engage a municipal website with an accessibility tool. ADA compliance is definitely a big thing. It's definitely, I wouldn't even call it a hot topic. It is an always on topic. Is your website accessible to those who might not be able to see it or might not be able to type? Do you have, is the font large enough? Are the pictures of good contrast? Can they actually use it? Does it come with a calendar? Does it include mass notifications? Does it include things like a citizen engagement app? And I'll just provide an example for that. A citizen engagement app is where you can be out somewhere and maybe there's a pothole in the road. You can snap a picture of it with your phone and send it in. Do you provide virtual town hall meetings like we talked about before? The point here is that you want to reach your community where they are at. I'm going to talk about one more example on the next slide as well. And that's, it kind of ties in with what I talked about with putting forms online and all that kind of stuff. An example that I will use is an operator's license in Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, bartenders are licensed at the local level. The liquor licenses and the beer licenses, they're given out at the local level, but they're kind of managed by the state. But bartenders are completely managed at the local level. A bartender your stereotypical bartender doesn't necessarily work first shift when you guys are in the office. They are sleeping when you're working, and they are working when you're sleeping. So if they need to get their operator's license filled out and to you, how can they do that if both of those statements are true? If they're sleeping when you're working and you're sleeping when they're working. So a way to accomplish that is to provide a digital form or a digital permit or a digital license that they can complete on their time, pay for completely online, and send in to you. This, again, will lighten your workload, but it also reaches them where they are. Also, and again, I'm not an exception to this. I don't ever carry cash in my wallet, and I know there's a number of people that don't even have checkbooks. Mine is right here. I write like 2 checks a month, but people don't even write checks anymore. And so cash and checks, while they are still methods of payment that are available and maybe should be used, credit cards, debit cards, ACH, Apple Pay, these are all things that are just exploding and that you have to pay, you have to plan for, because people are going to come in and say, I want to pay my taxes with a credit card, or I want to use ACH. 17 years ago when I started as a clerk, I could count on one hand the number of people who were asking me for property tax payments via credit card. And 3 years ago, just before I left, I could count on 10 hands. It really has taken off. What's great about technology, though, is that in kind of the employment environment that we're in, where it's really hard to find qualified people to work, you can increase your services with a minimal increase in expenses. People are expensive. I don't think anybody would argue that point. And it's great to have people, but at some point, if you need to offer more and you only have a limited amount of dollars, how can you stretch your budget to do that? That's where technology can really step in and help you out. And then finally, this will save time for everybody. This will save time for you, for your staff, for people filling out the forms, completing the work, all that kind of stuff. The time might even be more of a bigger save than the money, and that time will free you up to work on more important tasks and more kind of brain intensive things that really require your attention, as opposed to approving a bunch of licenses or going over them when technology can do that for you. The last thing, and we're almost closing up here. Betty and Bella work very well together. I actually have a personal example. When I worked in Oakland, I hired my deputy, Susan, and she was old enough to be my mom, and we balanced each other out so well. And I would not call myself like, a Bella. I may be partially a Bella, but not totally a Bella. And I wouldn't necessarily call Susan a total Betty, but we were so perfect for each other because we balanced each other out so well. And so whether you're using an app or a flyer, it's super, super important to communicate in a way that's suitable for your community. Again, you guys know your people, your residents, your visitors the best, what works for them. There will always be a need for Bettys and there will always be a need for Bellas, but it really is ideal when they work together and just kind of go that hybrid approach as opposed to one extreme or the other. So I hope this helps. I'm definitely gonna be around to answer any questions that you guys might have. I just want to share one quick kind of fun thing. 2 weeks ago, both of our companies, TownWeb and HeyGov, were at the Wisconsin Municipal Clerks Association conference. I used to be a member. I mentioned I used to be the president. I'm still very well known there, but it was held the week of my 20th wedding anniversary, and so I was unable to go. And so in my place, we sent a cardboard cutout of me, and so I just wanted to share a few highlights from there. Supposedly, it was a great success, and there were a lot of pictures. I got a lot of pictures from people, but it also kind of shows, like, even though I wasn't there, I was still there, and it's still a great way to just kind of connect with people. I was having people text me, Facebook message me, call me because of this, and it kind of goes in with today's theme. You do something kind of weird and wacky like this, and it really makes people pay attention. And I actually kind of felt like I was there even without being there. It's kind of like having Flat Stanley, only it was Flat Chris. So it was awesome to have so many of my friends send me pictures and just kind of really embrace that. And I'm going to pick myself up in a couple of weeks because I'm still back in Wisconsin, but it was a really cool thing to do. And I just wanted to share some pictures with that. So, we've reached the end. You've survived. Congratulations. I still have one extra bottle of water, so that's good. But any questions that you guys have, feel free to email me. Feel free to email sales@townweb. Give us a call. Drop questions in the chat. We're definitely going to stick around for a few minutes and answer any questions that you might have. But really, I want to thank you all for coming. I think this webinar is also a really great example of just kind of how things have changed. Webinars, I've done, I don't know, I must have done 15 or 20 webinars in my 2 years being here, and I never could have imagined doing that. I teach virtually. I teach at UW-Oshkosh in Wisconsin, and I teach at Rochester University in Michigan, and I live 2 or 3 time zones away. So just in just seeing that and how my life is, it's totally what I didn't think it would be, but it really is pretty cool in the end. So any questions that you guys have, drop them in the chat. But again, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it, and hopefully the weather is good where you are and not a whole lot of wildfires like there are down here. And again, I wish I had some fun kind of funky music to play, but I don't. So I see we've got a couple folks typing, so I'll just wait and see what's going on. You are very welcome, Susan. Thank you for coming. Oh, I see Gina joined us from Dousman. Hi, Gina. Nice to see you. So we've got another couple folks typing. Yes, we did record this. Yes, absolutely. This will be shared with everybody who signed up. Yes. And it's nice to know that folks are still walking in to see you, Stephanie. Carol, you are welcome. Is there, Stephanie, is there a person we can talk to ask for help with? Yeah, I mean, you can certainly shoot me an email. We can set up a Zoom, or if we want to do a phone call, that's great too. Absolutely, we'd be happy to help. Yep. Ah, perfect. Yes. Yeah, we do. We actually have Nikita is one of our, she's our lead trainer. And so I'll tell you what, why don't you shoot me an email and I can hook the two of you up with each other. You probably should have access to it in your dashboard, but we absolutely can do that for you. That's no problem. We'd love to hear when you're training new people. That's fantastic. Any other questions? We'll stick around for another couple of minutes. And again, this will be sent out to everybody. So if you've got some folks who either want to watch it later, or like Stephanie had some folks walk in and you missed some, we can definitely it will be sent over. That's no problem at all. But any other questions that you guys might have? Sounds good. Stephanie, I should have said that. That sounds good, Stephanie. That's fine. We're always here to help. That's totally fine. That's what support's here for. Cool. Well, I think given there aren't any other questions, I think we'll probably just leave it at that. Again, if you think of anything afterwards, feel free to shoot me an email. Feel free to call. We're definitely here for you. But thank you everybody for attending. This is awesome, and we'll see you for the next one.
Thank you, everybody.